Alright, hey guys, back with another reaction. I want to check out HexJuice's video she just put up about an hour ago. I saw it while I was out and I knew I wanted to just check out her thoughts, kind of expanded thoughts. Why does everyone hate Zenless on Zero? So I'm sure it's going to be her input and I'll expand a bit more on my own thoughts. I've gotten a fair bit further into the game. I think I'm around internet level 24, 23, 24. I'm doing the Bellabog stuff now, which I'm quite enjoying actually. Things I'm not enjoying so much, but let's get into this, see what she has to say, and relay some of my own thoughts as well, maybe as we go.
My problem with Zenless Zone Zero, after thinking about it, was that I feel like the game was not represented to be what it was going to be. Most of my problems, to be real with you, are fully related to the live stream, like the release live stream. The release live stream had three things that I feel were entirely not accurate, misrepresented, or like just a straight up lie. So I mean, the first thing we already know is the fact that the game was very combat focused. I talked about this a bit on my live stream last night, which, by the way, Elusive Realm, Wuthering Waves, we had a lot of fun on that actually, like going through it if you want to check it out. The combat focus is not really so much the case necessarily. The game's not fully combat focused, so that's something. And really, I've yet to see a lot of complexity. I will say this quickly. The most complex enemy I've seen so far, and I haven't done their version of Abyss just yet, the Hollow Zero stuff. I need to get into that. I got the ability now to farm boss materials for the core skill upgrades, and I've been doing the one for Necomata, kind of the big guy, the brute type guy, and he so far is actually the most reactive enemy, and he's kind of like a boss, and the bosses seem alright, because he was actually not just getting staggered constantly, like... He had a lot of hyper armor, and he was actually reacting actively to attacks, and could, if you weren't careful, could do a little bit of damage. So I mean, more stuff like that, please. I will enjoy it, but let's carry on. I'm gonna tell you what those three things are.
Intro.
Subscribe. The first one is that the game advertised there being 180 free pulls, and they did this whole insane show about like Dawei going 20 extra pulls for the players. You get a pull.
If the players want it, we shall give it to them. That's kind of how he was putting it, which kind of fucked me off a little bit. It's like, fuck you, dude. I mean, I'm sorry, but like we're looking at Genshin on the side. Like, what about us? What about us? It's just
get a pull. Look at orange.
I just love the way he phrased that. So they're so full of shit with that.
But really, the reality of the situation is like, yeah, you do get 180 free pulls. The vast majority of you get purely from grinding the game. Very few.
Which is exactly what I said pre-release, and I think some people doubted me a lot with that, and it's like, I knew that was going to be the case. Of course it is. That's the hook to keep coming back to the game as well. And, you know, they got events on where you do get some nice pulls. You get some 10 pulls for certain internet levels, like when you hit certain milestones, which is cool. I mean, I got my Necomata very early. I got very lucky with that. And I got Rena not long after, because your first 50 pulls guarantee you an S rank on the standard banner, which is cool. It's not as generous as Wuthering Waves, but we all know that. And I think we weren't all expecting that so much with a Hoyo game, sadly. Sad to say, but it's true.
Few of those pulls were actually quote-unquote free pulls, unless you don't value your own time. Having to spend your time on the game to get those pulls does not make them free, even though you didn't have to, you didn't have to spend money, I guess. But
that's what they're talking about.
Too, especially in gacha. So I did not like that it was not abundantly clear where you were getting those pulls. Also, almost all of them were for the standard banner or for the Bongbus, which aren't even pulls that you can spend money on. I don't believe. I don't think you can buy Bongbu pulls if you're.
I don't think you can actually.
That's just something you grind for.
I don't think so.
It just gave you extra Bongbus essentially. I didn't like that it wasn't made clear where you get those pulls from. Do I think that they should have just let us log on and bust out 180 pulls instantly? No, but it would have been.
Yeah, I do think that would be pretty silly, honestly. Like, you do need to drag it out a little bit, but a bit more accessibility on those would have been nice, and that's why they kept it vague, though. You know, they just said free pulls, and what they mean by that is exactly what she said. You don't have to pay for these. That's all it means. They're free pulls, okay, just play the game. So, it's still a time investment, yes. Of course it would be.
Nice if they didn't
I knew it would be.
Like, you know, advertise it that way, when that's kind of what it seemed like we were going to do.
By the way,
thing that I did.
I'm sorry, I am covering an avatar, which, out of respect, I'm going to quickly move this over. We'll do that instead, just for the rest of the video. You can see the lovely avatar. Let's carry on.
Didn't particularly like about the game, or I didn't like about the advertising or how the game was sort of put in front of you. They did not really address the TV situation in the live stream, right? They sort of very specifically didn't show any TV gameplay, anything like that.
It's like they're ashamed of it, honestly. It's like they know, and that's why they have a speed up feature with it, because I think they just know people just don't care about this shit. It's just, it's the worst type of padding, and for me, by the way, hopefully not an hour-long reaction, again, giving you guys content, right? So if it goes for long, it goes for long. So I'm going to interject, but for me, again, I talked about this. I don't think I labeled it as my biggest complaint at the time when I talked through my impressions. The TV shit is my biggest complaint. It sucks. I don't like doing it. The exploration commissions are just annoying. A lot of the story stuff, just the most I've seen them do with it in terms of creativity is make it. I had like one of the stages like a Bomberman stage, which is something, I guess, but it's not. I think that's about the most they can do that would be like interesting. Maybe I'm wrong, but again, I feel like they could replace this thing with so much more meaningful content, even if it was just having actual areas to actually explore with your characters. But, you know, this is not a good substitute. And for me, I'm telling you guys right now, there's 2 reasons I won't spend money on this game. I'm going fully free to play if I stick with it, which is likely because I do like some aspects of it. Reason number 1 is HoYoverse. I don't really want to give them money just out of, you know, not out of spite, but just because I don't want to support this type of company. The type of company that leaves one of their games to just die, despite fan feedback en masse, asking for improvements and asking to be thrown a bone. They don't give a shit. Now, her and Tectone were having a conversation about this, about whether that makes HoYoverse a bad company as a whole. There's nuance to it. So I wouldn't say it makes them a bad company as a whole, but it definitely is damaging to their overall image. I don't think that's disputable. Their overall image has been damaged by their stance and their lack of care about Genshin Impact for a lot of people. It's just it can't be disputed. That's my stance. There's nuance to it. I'm sure there's plenty of people working on the games individually that really care, even about Genshin. You know, they're just doing their jobs as well at the same time and working with the limitations they have in place. They're not making the big decisions about like, oh, how many polls are we going to give players and stuff like that. But yeah, that's the first reason. As I was saying, it being HoYoverse, I'm not spending on it, or I don't want to because of that. It's a barrier for me, for sure. And the TV system. If they keep the TV system in place, it's not content that's worthy of my money. I'm just being frank with you guys. It's not. And it's a lot of the game, too. So those 2 things are the barriers for me. If that doesn't exist, or I could probably get over the HoYoverse thing, 'cause it's a different game, different team, development team, so okay, fine, whatever, even though it is a problem still for me. But the TV shit, I can't. But anyway, let's carry on.
They didn't
going for too long here.
address what they were going to be doing in the future with the TVs. Like, there was no detailed information about the TVs, and I think the reality of that is because the second that they saw TVs in the live stream, people would have been like, oh my fucking god, they're still fucking
they're like ashamed of it. It's
people
weird.
Hated those TVs since the first beta test. They despise them. And so I think,
and this is another example, once again, of how you're not listening. Because like I said before in my other videos, I didn't really pay attention at the time to people's criticisms of ZZZ. I wasn't paying super high attention to the game of the CBTs, but I did hear, even me, I did hear about the TV stuff. And I don't know what improvements they made specifically. People said they did cut it down. Frankly, they should have cut it out, but they didn't.
They left them out of the dev live stream to make it seem like they're not there or not that big of a deal, so people could have more hype, because the second people saw them, they would have been fucking mad about it. And then when you get into the game, it's like like so much TVs. Especially the beginning of the game. Is the first 5 hours of the game is a crazy amount of TV gameplay, considering that they didn't acknowledge that there was so much of it, and considering the fact that in 3 beta tests, people hated them and they didn't take them out completely. And then the third thing for me is just simply this line about it being a combat-focused gameplay, because when you say something, it should be true. And the reality is maybe it is once you finish all of the early game stuff and you get all the way into the end game, and maybe when the game has been developed for a while, yes, you're going to be doing a lot of combat. And so at the end of the day, eventually, maybe it's a combat-focused game. but the vast majority of people played this shit and were like, all I'm doing is playing fucking TVs. How is this
The problem is their TV stuff is tied directly to the story because that is literally the hollow zone exploration. That's their idea of exploration. Like in any other game, you'd be just walking through the environments, maybe jumping, climbing around, finding, like say Genshin even, you know, go around finding chests. Even in stories, you know, go to this area, you teleport nearby and you go over there, maybe fight some enemies. Their idea of exploration in ZZZ is the TV shit. It's bad. It's bad. And you tell me this company doesn't have the resources to make something much better? This is why I don't want to spend on it. They just disrespect their players. They can do better than this. They can do better than this. They can. I'm sorry. Even if you like this system, you have to at least admit they can really do better. And they can do more based on feedback, but they just won't. So...
combat focused game. And I think that was actually a really reasonable feeling to come into it and have all of these things be like not entirely represented or not entirely like truthful in the release of the live stream. Like that feels like ass. Yeah, I mean honestly, the hardest thing about the game, the biggest focus of the game is your patience. That's the demon you're fighting at the beginning of this game. I think that most
the main
people's
antagonist
experience and most of people's
early on
feeling toward the game, personally also my own, is the fact that ultimately it felt like it was going to be one thing and it wasn't that thing. And then people were mad because people already sort of have like kind of a negative tilt to Hoyo. And yeah, you can bring up HSR or whatever the fuck else, right? But the reality is a lot of people don't really trust Hoyoverse. They don't trust Hoyoverse.
And once again, I talked about this earlier, but I think that's totally valid. It's like, I said, I heard some of the debate Tecton and her had live. I didn't listen to all of it. But Tecton's position as far, and look, I'm just paraphrasing now. I'm not saying this is specifically what he said, but his position was more so that he's willing to give Hoyo some slack because they've done other things like HSR that are really good. Okay, fine. There's different teams. Like I said, there's nuance to this kind of situation. I can't blanketly say that Hoyo's just terrible all around. But, you know, Disney, on occasion, has been known to make some good things, but Disney is like a shitty company in many, many ways and have a bad reputation en masse. Ubisoft have been known to make decent games in the past. I don't know so much about now. Shitty reputation. EA have been known to have involvement in some decent games and decent projects. Terrible reputation in gaming. It's a similar type of thing to me. They just, having them put out a product that they show they don't really care about, even when there's outcry from fans and requests for new things, features, changes, quality of life, that stains the company. And it's reasonable to me and understandable why people would see Hoyo and be like, I want to play a fucking Hoyo game. I get it, trust me.
To listen to players all of the time. A lot of people have felt very deeply burned by Hoyoverse. And so they see, okay,
understandably,
so you didn't really give us those rewards. You weren't really honest about what the type of gameplay was of this game. And you didn't listen to community feedback about how much people hated the TV gameplay, despite the fact that was something that people were
Hoyo not listening? There's a shock.
upset about since quite literally CBT1 like a year ago, like so long ass time ago. And so like there people already don't trust Hoyoverse, and then it felt like, okay, so this is exactly what I expect from untrustworthy Hoyoverse. I don't want to play it then. And I think that is absolutely and 100% a legitimate reaction from a consumer if they don't trust the corporation, that if they immediately feel that they are validated and not trusting that corporation, that they don't want to continue trying it and that they're just going to shit on it. And so I don't think it's a consumer's responsibility.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that either, because first impressions matter for a lot of people. And frankly, in general, they do matter. I know there's a lot of games out there where, okay, people say the more you play, the better it gets. I think a game should be compelling fairly quickly and give you an idea of what the flow of the game is and what you're going to be doing. And to a degree, what its complexities are. I mean, you need content over time, and certainly with a game like this, people are going to be playing over time. They're going to need pulls to keep people coming back in. But yeah, anyway, let's continue.
Continue trying. I'm glad that I have, because once I understand better what the actual game is and not what Hoyoverse lied about, it is actually pretty enjoyable. If you go into this with the experience, with expecting the experience of a brain rot gotcha game with nice music and cool animations and interesting character designs and a lot of refreshing shit, right? I think this could be a game for you. But if you're going into it expecting what you thought you were going to get from the fucking game, you're not going to enjoy it. And that is Hoyoverse's fault. I don't think it matters. I don't think it should matters. Because, like, I don't think you should have to play through X amount of hours in order to enjoy the game. I'm going to continue to try it because I do genuinely want to understand, because I've said over and over again how much I want to like the game. And I get paid to play the game, so it's fine. It's not me losing out on my time. But I don't think anybody in this chat needs to continue.
I think it's a bit of both as well with expectations, because obviously Hoyoverse set a lot of expectations. Let me go back a little bit. I'm not going to, just so we can continue. But also people might have preconceived notions in some cases. But yeah, Hoyoverse and the way they present it haven't necessarily been helping that with their talk about the combat focus. And in practice, at least so far, again, I'm internet level 23 or 24. Like, so far, the most complexity I've seen in like a fight, some of the Bellabog machines seemed like they would be harder if they were doing more damage. Like, because you have to be quite careful about some of their moves to avoid getting hit, actually. So that was kind of cool. And also that boss enemy, I'm farming for Necromata to upgrade her core skills. That guy was kind of cool, actually. So for me, good signs. But yeah, let's continue anyway. Sorry, what was you saying? I want to
understand, because I've said over and over again how much I want to like the game. And I get paid to play the game, so it's fine. It's not me losing out on my time. But I don't think anybody in this chat needs to continue giving the game space or time or hope if you don't like it. But you can watch me and maybe decide later that you do like it. I think this game has a lot of problems really early on that makes it feel like ass. For me, when I had a paradigm shift, I sat down and I had me a paradigm shift. I decided, okay, I'm going to go into this with the same expectations that I had for Cookie Run Kingdom. I'm going into this with the expectations that I had with Cookie Run Kingdom because I adored that game.
Oh, Ellen.
But nobody's gonna sit here and talk like.
I want Ellen. I'm jealous of her. I really want Ellen. I'm still pulling towards her. And by the way, my stance on the game, I know I've talked some negativities. I do enjoy like the combat actually and the characters. I predicted before the characters would keep me like around, and in not necessarily exclusively, the combat still has to be enjoyable, and it still is. It still is, for sure, to me. And obviously these new enemy additions that I haven't fought before are a bit more interesting than what I have been fighting. But the characters, I really like the character designs. I want Ellen. W engines as well. I'll talk about that if she might. I want to bring this up, though, because I brought it up on stream last night, and I want to talk about it. I think it's important.
Expect anything all that special from Cookie Run Kingdom gameplay. The point of this game is that I get to look at cool animations and characters, have cool music, fun vibe, and do a little bit of fighting here and there, and let's see how it feels if I play the game with those expectations and not the ones that Hoyoverse gave me by sort of lying.
I haven't seen this stuff yet,
more enjoyable. Do I think it's perfect? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This game has a lot of problems, and I do not blame a single person who doesn't want to play it or doesn't like it. I think the game is mid as shit. I think the game is super mega mid, and if you don't like it and you don't want that brain rot, I don't think you should play it. It's mid. But that doesn't mean that like it's not worth playing in any way, shape, or form. I think that sometimes mid is kind of what you need, because you don't necessarily want every gacha game you play to be something that you really have to put time and effort into. You don't want to play like 4 gacha games that require much of your time or effort or energy. Maybe you just want a gacha game where you can kind of brain rot and not try that hard and not think that much about it. And I
think it's a bit of brain rot, and the fact that, again, it's the accessible nature of it, like she's kind of getting at, means that it is kind of easy to just jump in. I got a friend who plays Wuthering Waves and, you know, started Zenless, so same kind of position as me on that front, and he also plays Honkai Star Rail. He doesn't like Wuthering Waves and the level of commitment you have to having to do in dailies, like he thinks it takes too long, versus like this game. I think this game's arguably easier to jump into and just do your dailies and have little time spent and get some quick fun out of it from like doing some combat commissions or whatever else to progress your characters. I can see the appeal, and obviously I wouldn't be playing it if I wasn't enjoying aspects of it. It's dude, the TV shit, I'm sorry, they need to do something about it, but they won't, and it's just...
I think that's okay. Because we're thinking about gacha gamers.
Because I like this game.
If this is a game for gacha gamers, I actually think it's really good. But I don't think that anyone should continue to try it if they don't immediately like it. I think that they were dishonest in the way that they initially chose to market the game. And if you're mad about that, you should be. You're not realistically expecting anything that insane from most gacha gameplay. But this is definitely a game that is not for everyone. It's definitely not going to be from people who want more game out of their gacha. And I think that Hoyo could have done more with this, and they didn't. I think that this is way too mid for a game by Hoyoverse, okay? In terms of gameplay.
And I wouldn't argue, again, overall the game is kind of in a mid spot. Yeah, I wouldn't argue like it's an exceptional game in any particular way or anything. Like, I do just enjoy the base elements of it and quite a number of elements of it. I like the characterization, interactions with characters. I quite like the visuals too. I was kind of put off pre-release, but seeing it on my screen, I quite like it. It looks really smooth, and smooth is probably the best way to say it. It's not quite as undetailed as I initially like saw on videos. Like, having it on my screen makes a bit of difference. But again, I think people just, again, it's just the TV shit. For me, it's trash content. And it's a lot of the game's makeup, and it's just... This is why, again, I feel like, once again, 1.0 live stream, they didn't really show any of that, because, yeah, they realized people don't care about this. So that's a bad reflection on where they're at, right? On where their heads are at when making this game. Oh, we gotta have some exploration, but shit, we don't want to make full levels that people can go through with jumping and climbing and all this stuff. Oh, let's just do this instead. I don't know, maybe certain types of people like it who don't want to have a major time commitment in the game and don't really care about exploring areas so much, because I know that there are people out there who maybe in Genshin don't want to explore for like chests and shit like that. I understand. It's just a different type of game, and I think they're just targeting a different type of person with this stuff, frankly. I don't think I'll warm up to the TV stuff, though. It just seems like a means to an end to actually get to the meat of the game, which is like the combat. Like the combat with the different characters, team building, trying out different synergies with different characters. I mean, that's just where it is, right? Like, so, let's carry on.
I think that this game should have been more than it was. But I think also if you're a degenerate gacha player who doesn't really care that much about it being a good game and you just want a fun gacha game, you will get what you paid for, which is free.
I ain't paying anything.
Not so much that my views have changed on the game.
So
it's
I win.
more so that my perspective has. I think there's a really big difference between the games and the expectations by the community before and after Genshin Impact.
Can I bring this up quickly? It's not related to what she's talking about specifically, but I said about W engines. We got a good shot of Alan with a weapon here. The W engine system is weird, I think. So here's how it works, and you guys probably know already. Characters always have their signature weapon visually. So Ellen always has her weapon looking like this. Like it looks like a signature weapon, right? It matches her. W engines don't change the look of the weapons you're carrying. What they do, if you have a signature W engine, it like adds like a glowing effect at certain points to your character, and that's about it. And I've seen some pictures on Twitter X of this, and it doesn't look that, it's not the same as having a signature weapon. It's just an interesting choice by them, and not necessarily a bad choice, because for me, I don't really care much about pulling W engines because of this. It's not as big a deal. Like, if you look at Genshin and Alchino with her scythe weapon, like, it looks incredible, and it really completes her look. Signature weapons complete the look of characters in Genshin, and it's part of the reason, even for me, that people would pull for weapons. Obviously, you get the most powerful version of the character with the weapon, but, well, not counting refinements, constellations, I'm just saying. But you also get that appearance factor. So from a business standpoint, it's very odd to me how they would make that decision. I'm not going to lie, because it doesn't incentivize me as much to get the W engine, the signatures. It doesn't. Like, it's cool to have them, obviously, but I'm not really going to go out of my way much to pull them. Like, I'm really going to focus on character first. Okay, W engine secondary if I want to squeeze more damage potential out, but I don't know. It's just not something I'm as eager to get for characters. It's just kind of strange. But hey, that's how they've done it.
And I'm saying that thinking that Genshin Impact is kind of a poopy doopy.
So it's good and bad is what I'm saying, because I like having signature weapons to complement the character. We have them anyway. But it doesn't incentivize me as much to pull, which is also a good thing, because I don't have any real incentive to spend, or less incentive to spend, let's say.
that I generally resent and don't like very much, okay? But it did sort of change the game for gacha. And I think HSR did a good job of giving people more of what they wanted and expected from gacha games, because while it is turn-based and imperfect and not everyone's cup of tea, for a turn-based game, I think they did fantastic. I think that this was a game that would have been an absolute smash hit in like 2019. In 2019,
I don't know if it was like here I heard that from. It might have been, or someone else, but people have been kind of saying that as well. Like the fact that we got this competition out there now, like Wuthering Waves, even Genshin having come out, and like Honkai Star Rail. I think a lot of people are naturally comparing this game to them and are just not seeing like what it's all about. Or yeah, I've seen a lot of people compare this to like Honkai Impact, and the fact that even that game is preferable, but this is like more in that kind of vein of design and whatnot. So
I think that this
I've
would
been
have
hearing
been
that.
the gotcha game, the one, the best one. There would not have been a competitor for this game in 2019 or early 2020. This would have been the game. The problem is that the expectations have been raised. This is a
We've had
gacha
other
game in the
games with more
truest sense of what
complexity, I
gacha
feel like.
usually is, but
With
after
more going
Genshin
on
and
in a lot of
Mulan, all these
cases.
other things, this is going to be a disappointment, especially from Hoyoverse.
Ellen, I loved
I
her
think
though.
people would generally be very impressed with this game if it came from another developer as well. But because it's Hoyoverse, it feels like ass. The bar has been raised multiple times at this point, and it does not hit that bar. I think that if you're somebody who has played games outside of Genshin and HSR and Wuwa, I think this is going to appeal to you much more effectively because you understand the base excitement of gacha games. Where I think a lot of people got into gacha because it was like more like a real game plus the gacha stuff. If it was marketed correctly, I think people would hate it less. I think people would still probably not like it that much or be disappointed by it. But I think people would be less like, oh my god, this is the worst fucking game that's ever fucking existed. I understand it. You know, if they had marketed it as it was, I think people would actually probably generally like the game more. And
I think people would be a lot more forgiving if they really highlighted the TV system a lot more as like a key component of the game, because that's what she's kind of getting at. I do think they're not proud of that system, I don't think, and it's kind of evident because it wasn't talked about much in the 1.0 live stream either. Obviously, I don't think I can't remember exactly. Did they even bring it up? Because like I watched it before I made my concerns video last week or earlier this week. I didn't really talk about the TV system much. I don't think they talked about it much at all. So it's just sad, really, they put this in and they're clearly not proud of it as a system they think is worth selling to you. Instead, we're going to just kind of bait you in almost, and this is just something you have to put up with if you like the other stuff.
they would feel less specifically
Sure.
angry and upset about it. But the fact is that they didn't do that. And so people don't owe corporations the space of continuing to try something when they feel that they've been disappointed. But yeah,
True.
I do think showing the TVs and having better rewards would have also helped, because after Wuwa, it's just kind of not acceptable. The long and short of this game-
Let me just say, that Wuwa really raised the bar in terms of like how generous you can be with a game, and it's not just because of issues the game's had, which is part of it, I know, but we were promised a guaranteed 5-star selector for a weapon once you reach a certain union level in the game, union rank. We were promised that prior to even release, as well as a 5-star character selector. We were promised, these things, and plus just everything else they've done since then and in between and beyond and everything. They've been generous. And even the way the banners are set up, guaranteed for a signature weapon within 80 pulls. Guaranteed, no bullshit. This game has a 50-50 system for both as well, both the character banner and weapon banner. So they're just playing they're just playing you for fools, I feel like, and for many reasons. I would add that onto the pile. Actually, they're not being generous enough with it. I mean, they've got competition that's doing a lot more in that department. So I got 3 reasons not to spend money on this game. There you go. That's true. Let's go back a little.
Of continuing to try something when they feel that they've been disappointed. But yeah, I do think showing the TVs and having better rewards would have also helped, because after Wuwa, it's just kind of not acceptable. The long and short of this game is that this game is a gacha game, full stop. It's a gacha game in the purest and most classical like sense of being a gacha game. And so those people who want more from gacha games than just gacha game shit aren't gonna like it that much. Like they're just not. If you're somebody who came into gachas because of because of Genshin and because Genshin was closer to like regular games, you know, no. You're absolutely in no way ever going to enjoy this game. There's just no way for you to be honest.
I wouldn't say that. Like, there's no possible way someone's going to enjoy it, but I do think it would be a turn off for many people. Because like she's saying, I feel like those kind of games like Genshin expanded the space more to be more mainstream. To have that mainstream appeal of like, oh, here's an open world kind of first. Okay, now here's the gacha elements. Here's kind of how progression works if you want to delve into this and get new characters and things. I feel like, you know, I'm someone who was introduced that way as well, and I've not played a more traditional type of gacha ever. I really haven't. Like what this kind of is, and I see it. It's just, for me, I guess it does relate to like how Genshin was crafted, because the content felt very meaningful at first and for a while, in my opinion, and then it kind of tapered off. So I don't know. It just depends. I'm not expecting Hoyoverse to change stuff. That's the thing. Like if they were to tell us, look, we've heard your feedback on the TV system. We're doing away with it. We're going to be expanding these environments and adding like a jump feature, climbing and stuff like that. And you can really go around these areas now and get like emergent encounters, maybe really tough enemies hidden in levels and stuff like that. I'll be sick. But it's Hoyoverse. Is it ever going to happen? They do what they kind of want to do. And they've already established this as a commission type of feature and baked into the story as well. I don't think it's ever going to change. That's the put-off for me. That's one of the really big turn-offs for me. Otherwise, I do enjoy the game, despite it just being like one of the more typical, I guess, old-school types of gacha games. I'm having fun with it in places. I don't know if that's getting taboo to say, but I am. So
honest, because if you've never played like other gachas outside of sort of the Hoyoverse standard and Wuwa, you're not gonna like this game. It's gonna be hard for you. But if you were somebody who played like other like Arknights, Fate Go,
never played
Honkai
them.
Impact Third, even any
Didn't play
older,
Honkai.
more like classic gachas before Genshin, PGR even to a certain extent. Yes, PGR might be hard because
Still
this is
haven't
gonna
played
be
it.
kind of like worse PGR for a lot of people. But it's like it's the older style of a gacha game with all of the modern niceties and visuals and technology, you know? And so if you played gacha games before Genshin, I think you'll like this game. If you didn't play gacha games before Genshin, I don't think you're gonna like this game. So that's kind of...
I don't think it's so, like I said, I've already talked about it, I don't think it's quite, I mean, I know she's not saying definitively, but I would just add that I think there's still room for people like me. I still like parts of the game. There's just things they need to take out or change, like fundamental things. So
the take that I've over
that's just me
about
anyway.
it, and playing it some off stream and playing it now, and just in general, I think ultimately the appeal of this game is like classic hardcore gacha players, which is why I think that there's more of a degen focus to some of the character designs. It is what it is.
Oh.
And so I think that this is a gacha game.
I like the characters in the
for
game.
gacha players. For gacha players. Like not Genshin players, not even necessarily HSR players or Wuwa players, you know? I think that this is a gacha game for gacha players. For gacha players who play gacha games that are dog shit. Because the reality is that gacha games are pretty ass. Especially classic gacha games are ass.
Again, I can't really say too much. I've just not got that experience with the classic old school types. This, I guess, would be my closest experience. And the kind of padding they've got, once again, we've already talked about. It's
like
not
mobile only gacha games for gacha reasons are ass. That's what this is for. This is that, but nice and shiny and pretty and good. Like the reality is like a lot of people really, really, really do genuinely enjoy classic gacha stuff. Like classic gacha, Honkai Impact, PGR, Fate Go. Those games had a huge ability to make money and a huge amount of success long before Genshin Impact existed. Gacha games existed before Genshin. I know that this is shocking. My first gacha game, by the way, was Fate Go. But like gacha games existed long before Genshin Impact. This is for those players, in my opinion. And I could be totally wrong. totally wrong about their intention there, and that's totally fine, and people can disagree with me. So if you go into it expecting something closer to Genshin Impact, Woo-Wah, I'm even giving Genshin Impact a lot of, like, I think Genshin Impact, Woo-Wah, HSR, if you're expecting something closer to that is a little bit more of a game, absolutely, you're going to be disappointed by this. But this is a gacha game. It's a gacha game for gacha motherfuckers.
So I think what it boils down to, again, for me personally, is that I'm fine with it being, like, I guess more akin to an old school gacha. I like very few aspects about the game, but the actual core, one of the core things about the game is the TV system. Again, beating a dead horse here, I know, but please change it. And if you don't change it or remove it entirely and put something else in its place, I'm not spending on this game. I can't justify it. I'd be a damn fool to spend on this game. For me, anyway. Like, with where I'm at, I'm not going to do it. And it being Hoyo, of course, and the way the banners work, it's not like Kurov just been so much better with that. All those things, I can't do it. But there are things, once again, I enjoy. Combat is satisfying. I've not gone far enough again to really test the depth and do too many team synergies. I'm still using the same physical team with Nekomata, Billy, and Piper together, which I enjoy, but there's a lot more to do beyond that. I've got more characters to use. Sukaku I want to use her at some point as just one example. But look, I'm not jumping off yet. We'll see how much it holds my attention and just how it goes going forwards. But the TV shit is fatiguing. I just don't really want to do it. But that'll be it, guys. Just a bunch of information out there. 36 minutes we've gone on for, so I'm going to get this up. Let me know what you think below. I know some of you, I will say this to wrap up, just very quickly. I know a lot of you probably just don't care about Zenless anymore. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but at the same time, I don't want to flanderize my channel to just be about Wuthering Waves. I want people to understand that too. I enjoy Wuthering Waves, but I don't want to make content solely about it. It's not the only game I play. It's not the only game I want to play. There's other games out there. So going forward, I'm going to try and spice up the variety, even if it is Zenless, if I keep playing it, despite some people not caring. I guess you just keep an eye out for things you actually do care about coming on my channel, but I want to talk about other games, potentially too, that aren't even gacha at some point. I don't know if people care about that. It remains to be seen. I've got a small channel, but I want to make videos about stuff that I care about. While Wuthering Waves is one of those things, it's not the only thing. And gacha games in general aren't the only thing, you know, even though they are a big part of what I enjoy. But that'll be it, guys. Leave your comments down below, share your thoughts, and I'll speak with you all again soon.